Oh, what is up, my people? It is episode 46 of the Vito X DINO podcast. My name is Vito Delsante. His name is Dean Haspiel.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dean Haspiel.
And we're recording this on the day after Thanksgiving, the day before Thanksgiving, excuse me. But it'll be up on Cyber Monday. So hopefully you guys all had a happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully everyone got the meal. I hate that Thanksgiving is so overshadowed by Halloween before it and Christmas after it, because it really is the best meal of the year.
No, it's
Oh
not.
my God, yeah.
Well, okay. All right, time out. Do you mean the actual ingredients of the meal or that to have a big meal?
I think the actual meal itself, like the tradition of turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, uh, sweet potatoes or yams, pumpkin pie, gravy. God, I love gravy so much.
Gravy, gravy onions.
Michelle asked me, what do you want special for Thanksgiving? I said, gravy.
That's
That's
it.
all I want.
Just gravy.
Yeah.
Gravy and icing.
Uh,
You
well,
know,
uh,
like,
Whipped cream. There was a year.
no, I'm not a whipped cream guy. I mean,
Okay,
I've
so
had a good whipped cream, but I'm not a fan.
there was a year where I did like three or four Thanksgiving dinners in a day. Like there was like my mom's house, my father's parents, and then my stepmother's parents, and then somebody else's house. And I was just whipped
Wait,
cream.
wait, before you move on, Mike
Yeah,
Houston. That's a fucking movie. Mike thinks that's a movie. That's a
I'll
movie.
do it.
It's called
I mean,
Four Thanksgivings in a
I
Day.
love it. I love
oh
it.
yeah, you had to be a kid, I think, to really and a kid from like a separate like two separated families, like that kind of thing.
Well, I love it. Good seeing you again. I'm gonna let you guys get to work.
Yep. All
Take
right,
care,
man.
Mike.
Okay. We got to get
Yeah.
to work, Mike.
Yeah.
Me and Vito.
Our
We
once a
got to
week
work.
job.
All right.
But
Have a happy Thanksgiving. I'll talk to you tomorrow. All right.
but
Peace.
I promise you, I was putting like whipped cream on everything.
Mm,
Pies, I was putting it on cranberry sauce. I think I might have put it on turkey at one point. I was just whipped cream, and I got so sick,
I'm sure.
as you can
I'm
imagine.
sure.
I mean, I was like 10, maybe 9
Right, right,
when that
right.
happened.
Well, that's when you do that stuff, and then you learn. It's
Yeah.
like fire. Why can't I put my hand in fire? Let's find out.
The only other memorable Thanksgiving that I had was the year that I got food poisoning, and I stayed in bed watching Zodiac for the first time,
Mm, mm.
like the David Fincher Zodiac.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I love that movie. Um, uh, I wanted to mention this is a weird veer. Two things.
Hmm.
One is you appeared on Pop Culture podcast or
Mhm.
Pop Culture Cast or
Yes.
what's
Uh,
and
yeah,
I
pop
think
culture cast.
Pop Culture Cast, which is cool with Bob Harrison, and you. I guess you were the took the place of Mike Gold who couldn't show up.
Right, right.
And I think it's really cool because I was actually thinking about like what does our podcast yield besides having certain loyal people who are listening to us and want to engage, talk, and like trying to sell our comics or talk about comics or whatever. And I thought I love your voice. I love a lot of your opinions.
Thanks.
Sometimes we mostly agree, sometimes we don't.
Right.
Whatever. That's the whole point of talking. And I was just like, I'm glad to see you popping up in other places, and I do think it's partially attributed to the fact that we do this every week.
Right, right. And
You
like
know,
being a talking head, I think at some point, um, it's like comedians. Like at some point, they build up their career doing the work, and then at some point, they start being on panels. Do you know what I
hmm
mean? And like
hmm
and like
hmm
giving opinions or pithy remarks or whatever. And maybe that's where I'm at currently in my career. I mean, it's only one podcast. Oh well, that's not true. I wasn't a co-host, but I did Carrie's podcast this year
Yeah,
as
you've been
well.
on other podcasts
Yeah,
as Vito, and not just a co-host, as it were. But I think
right.
that's really cool to the point where I'm also encouraging you to try to publish your Substack newsletter a little more often.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
almost did something today, but I'll probably wait till tomorrow. Only because I just restacked your Substack from today, I
oh,
think you did,
thanks.
and I was like, yeah, I like it. It's hard to have something to say all the time,
Yes, agreed.
Sometimes, and that might be even a topic of conversation or a topic to write about, is that it's hard to, number one, it's hard to have an opinions, like
Well, it's
opinions.
not hard to have opinion, but it's hard to articulate a sound opinion because a lot of our opinions are probably knee-jerk reactions,
Sure.
and then we're like, oh wait, what did I just say? I just had a conversation with Mike Houston for about 45 minutes about uh, cowardice and beheadings
Mm.
and just a wide range of
What a
stuff
wi-
because Mike's a criminal lawyer and he
Yeah.
deals with a lot of stuff. And I was like, Mike, I think you need therapy and you're jaded, like basically, and he agreed,
Yeah. It's hard
but
to
it was like,
disagree.
and we're talking about like pandemic and COVID and how people behave and became very preachy,
Mhm.
and but because he felt it comes out of fear, but they were just being cowards. I was like, I don't think they were being cowards. I think that's a different, and I was trying to like bring him back to humanity because of the things he sees on a regular basis these
Right.
days.
Yeah, it's hard. It's probably hard for him to not be a pessimist. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, or maybe not even not be a pessimist, but to be optimistic often, because
Hmm.
of the things he sees.
Hmm. Well, I
Um,
joked with him. I said, like, it's not a joke. I think this is true. I think I'm more fascinated by murder and mayhem than he is because he sees that ultimately it's banal and
yeah,
that it's not as dramatized and uh, uh, fascinating and mysterious as we all like to make it when we craft our stories or watch our stories.
right.
It's like you'd be shocked at how banal it just comes down to survival, usually,
Yeah. I've always said that crime happens when uh, opportunity and desperation meet on a one-way street.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, it's a car crash. You know what I mean? Like when those two things meet on the street, like on that one-way street, it's going to make a collision. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to impact and it's going to do something. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the interesting things I think about crime and humanity are what pushes somebody further than another person. And the other
Mm-hmm.
part is how many times, and I think about this so much. How they were like a couple of months or years ago or whatever, they were like, men think about the Roman Empire all the time. I'm like, I never think about the Roman Empire. Like, you know what I think about? I think about how many times I've been at work or I've been on the subway, or I've just been at a movie theater, and there might have been a serial killer or a murderer, just
Mm-hmm.
or a wife abuser, or like someone who drowned their children or something in the same vicinity, and you have no idea. Like I think about that so much.
Oh, Mike was talking about, and I keep using Mike Houston's stories right now, but he's got a lot of stories as we do. And he was talking about the first time he saw death was when he was, I think it is either late teens or early 20s, and there were a bunch of kids swimming. And at some point, one kid was missing, and a few yards away, somebody went down with goggles and found and pulled out this blue body of their friend who had died. And he's thinking like how he didn't know how to react ultimately, and he heard a sound he hopes to never hear again of the mother screaming and
Mm,
how she reacted to it. But he was just like, I guess, compromised by the idea that this happened a few yards away from him
right.
and he didn't even know it.
Yeah.
It was happening right then and there and didn't even know about it, what had happened, until they pulled the body out.
Yeah. I don't know. I can't. I mean, other than funerals, like burials and stuff, I don't think I've ever seen a dead body expire or within feet of me. That's not true. No, my stepfather was in the hospital once, and I went to go see him, and I remember vividly they wheeled a dead body, down
Mm,
the hall, and it just like
mm,
stunned me. But I do remember the first time, like vividly, I smelled a dead body.
mm-hmm,
And that, like, let me tell you something. When you start working in New York City and like a mouse dies somewhere,
mm-hmm,
like you're immediately like, oh, I know what that smell is. We got to find that dead mouse because like that
mm-hmm.
smell is so profound and so unmistakable. It can't be anything else. You know,
Hmm.
like, I live in a rural, not a rural area, but somewhat rural suburban area, and
Hmm.
there are always dead animals in the like deer that get hit by trucks or whatever. So there's always like that smell, every now and again. But my goodness, like that smell never goes away from you.
Were you in the studio when I went to Yaddo for a retreat
No,
and an
no.
artist had died down the hall from our
Oof.
studio?
No, I wasn't. No,
Oh, you weren't there.
I think I
Yeah,
might
yeah.
have been in Pennsylvania by that point.
And
Maybe
I
no,
remember
maybe that was before I even joined the studio. Now that I'm thinking about
either
it.
before or after, and it was this
Yeah.
young female artist that I don't believe she committed suicide, but she might have either died from a drug overdose. I forget how she died. But I remember coming back like a month later and I walked in and it had already been, quote, cleaned up and
Yeah.
it was still unmistakable, the smell of death. It was
Yeah.
insane.
Rick Remender once told me, I told Rick Remender a story about when I lived in Seattle. Rick Remender, another comic book writer, an artist, I think he's done inking at least, but he did a really great run on Captain America. Just for anybody
With
wondering,
Jeremita Jr., that was
yeah,
basically picking up where Jack Kirby left off with the Captain
and
America Mad
I
Bomb
bomb,
story
yeah,
in a way. And he also did co-created Fear Agent, I
yep.
believe, and some
Black
other great
Giants,
comics.
another great comic of his. So I was telling Rick the story about when I lived in Seattle. I used to clean up suicides in my apartment building. Like I was not the co, I was the assistant building manager, and that was my job. Like security, basically doing like security rounds, seeing if anybody, was where they weren't supposed to be. And then on the off chance that somebody killed themselves, I would clean up the apartment after them. And there were at least two instances where I cleaned up a bloody bathtub and like a bloody kitchen.
Oh my God. This is like the origin of Murders in the Building, the TV show.
Yeah, and Remender goes, and you haven't written the story. Why?
I know, right? I mean,
No,
come on.
I mean, it
But
kind
like
of,
I like the idea of that your security and you clean up suicides like in the same building.
yeah, I kind of failed at one job, but I was very good at the other, it
Oh
seems.
my God.
Like,
I think the first dead person encounter I ever had was I was walking down when I lived at 79th Street and Broadway in Manhattan. And I think it was around 81st Street or 83rd Street or something. I was walking down to Riverside Park or something. And there were a couple of cops in the corner, and I kept walking, and I saw in front of me uh something covered, like a tarp, like a big area of tarp. And I'm thinking, wait a second, is there a person under that?
mm,
And I remember looking up and I counted the floors. It was like 7 floors or something up where like I saw these drapes kind of flowing in the wind.
uh,
And it was the only open window. And I went backwards across the street. It was in a big street, it was a small side street.
uh-huh.
And I remember looking up just to get a better glimpse of the window when my foot skidded on something. And I looked down and
Oh,
it was brain matter.
oh no.
And I guess the head had exploded and burst across, the brain had gone
Yeah,
flying across the street. And I remember going, oh my God. And it looked like brain because I'd seen brain in horror movies and
sure.
whatnot. And it freaked me out.
Yeah,
Like,
why wouldn't it?
oh my God, and they hadn't discovered this part of the evidence yet because it kind of maybe it just happened within a half hour or something. Anyway, I don't remember what happened next, but I was like, oh my God, this is
There
horrible.
was there was one time that I had to meet somebody up by Central Park, and I was like running late, and I was on the R train, and I got to, I want to say not 59th, but like 51st or 50th, whatever, or 49th it was. And it was like delayed. Like the thing was delayed. I was like, I can't wait. Like, if I walk, I can make it there in time. So I start walking and I get up to the entrance to Central Park, which is where the N train, R train entrance would be. And I get there, and there's like an ambulance, and I'm like, oh, that's probably, probably like something happened on the train before me. And I see these two EMTs bringing like a covered sheet on a gurney up. And I was like, oh, somebody jumped in front of the train or something. And then I saw a second set bringing a gurney, and I was like, oh, that person got cut in half.
No, Oh,
That's exactly what happened. You read the
oh
paper the next day, and
man.
it's like somebody got like I guess they got caught on the track or something like that.
Oh
It's
man.
awful. Oh, happy
Oh,
Thanksgiving, everybody!
happy Thanksgiving.
What are you
Here you
thankful
go,
for? Not seeing any of this shit. I'll tell you that.
man. Oh man. I mean, there's so much I could talk about news reports right now that me and
Oh,
Jen are like, what's going on at the NYCHA building down the block where they found an 80-year-old woman and her 50-year-old son both dead? Like, what happened?
we
You
had
know?
a regular. You wouldn't know his name, but you probably would if I put a picture of him, like, and I don't have one, but like if I put a picture up of him, you'd be. I remember that guy from Hamley's, and he was like a regular. He was always at every, like always there every Wednesday. He was like this was like uh in the heyday, of comics in the 2000s. Like people like Wednesday, they were like there at the store lined up down the block waiting for us to open, that kind of thing. And he passed away, and he was an older gentleman, like he was much older than any of us. He was maybe in his 70s, and he was taking care of his mother. And the thing is, his mother was kind of not, I wouldn't say she was an invalid, but she wasn't well. And he was
Mm,
taking care of her. So he died first, according to the New York Times. And then
mm.
she died as a result of not being taken care of. And it was like,
Right.
wow, what a
It's
what a
awful.
world.
Well,
Like,
and thinking about the Gene Hackman, I can't even
yeah,
get to the Gene Hackman like story, which is so
it gets
so
worse
tragic.
the more you
And
look
just,
into it.
yeah, it's bad. All right. Well, uh, happy Thanksgiving.
I'm
Oh, speaking
thankful
of
of it.
meals. Well, speaking of meals, so like I think I'm very it's not original for me to say that don't love turkey as a main ingredient. I think
Oh,
it's fine. It's a little boring. I'd rather have chicken or ham or almost anything else. But I do like a turkey sandwich or
yeah.
a turkey club sandwich, you know?
Yeah, I'm not a
Um,
fan of ham as a leftover. Like like I like when we make a ham for Christmas or for Easter and it's like fresh and I'll eat it and stuff,
right.
and I like it when it's hot and everything, but like when it sits in the fridge, like there's a congealing of
Yeah,
like
after a while
I
it
don't.
becomes a laborious thing. But I think turkey is a great leftover
Oh, absolutely.
meal.
Absolutely. I love it. And if I could have turkey with every meal, like every big meal like Easter, Thanksgiving, whatever, like I would. But Michelle introduced me to a Pennsylvania when we first hooked up. She introduced me to a Pennsylvania thing. And it's not Pennsylvania, I find, after a while, like it's something that people do all over the world where they eat pork uh, like on New Year's Day. Like
Hmm.
that's like the meal. Like they have to have like pork and sauerkraut almost specifically. And I can't remember if it's like an Amish thing or if it's like what, but it's supposed to be good luck. And
Okay. Okay.
she makes pork, sauerkraut, and somehow or other, she like
Sounds
convinced.
Polish to me.
Yeah, yeah, maybe, but like
It sounds
pork, sauerkraut, and
Polish.
then like mashed potatoes, which
Yeah,
I
that sounds
would
very
have.
or Ukrainian Polish type
Yeah,
thing,
I
you
never
know?
would have. I never would have put those three together. But my God, it's the best tasting thing.
Yeah, well, like a good pork sausage or a kielbasa,
Yeah,
with
yeah.
um
It's usually a pork loin, but yeah, like I agree.
or
Oh
pork
my
loin.
goodness,
Interesting.
vegetarians
Maybe.
and vegans were sorry.
Yeah, yeah,
Like our
sorry.
meat.
Actually, here's a quick little verses. And then I'll tell you my answer after you tell me yours.
Okay.
Stuffing with raisins? Yes or no?
Versus,
All right, sorry. Stuffing with raisins or stuffing without raisins?
um, I like without, but I'm very fond of a stuffing with dried cranberries.
Oh, weird. I'm against dried fruit of all kinds. And here's the other one. Stuffing with nuts or without nuts?
Without, but
Same.
my
Agreed.
mom made stuffing with the turkey giblets, which is really good.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine. Also, I just like a good old fashioned stuffing that you
Yeah.
just, without much to it, like give it some flavor, whatever that soggy breadcrumb
Yeah.
concoction, and
Yeah.
then put
I'm
it
a
with the
fan.
food, you
And then
know.
you throw just a bunch of turkey gravy on it. It's just like, oh gosh,
Absolutely.
it soaks it all
Absolutely.
up and stuff.
Okay, so I have a few topics.
Yeah.
I don't know in what order. Did you have a feeling about an order?
Let's start heavy actually with
Okay,
the internet beef of
okay.
this week
You know
because
more than I do.
uh, I barely know any of it. It's just that Bob and I talked about it on
Right.
culture uh, pop culture cast. Wow, that's tough to say. Last night, so I have a little bit of a handle on it. And basically, what happened was Tim Seeley was contracted. This is what you got to remember: is that he was contracted.
So
They
we're talking about a writer, and he's also an artist named Tim Seeley. He's
Yeah, based out
well
of
regarded. He's had comics turned into TV shows.
Revival being the most recent one with Mike Norton.
Right.
Um, I believe he created Hack Slash,
Right.
the cult favorite kind of horror adjacent comic. Um, they're doing something with Hack Slash that I saw body bags, Hack Slash body bags,
Mm.
like with Jason, the late Jason Pearson
Hmm.
artist of and creator of body bags. Like they're doing kind of like a crossover with those four characters. So Tim, uh, fantastic writer. Like I really enjoy a lot of his work. I've definitely not read everything he's written, but the stuff that I've read, I like. I hesitate to say the word serviceable because that sounds like an insult, but you put him on any book and like it's just like you didn't miss
Hmm.
anything. Like you know what I mean? Like he's a
Hmm.
very good at being seamless, where you're not missing something. Um, like if he comes in the middle of a run, like which happens, to all of us, I guess, maybe some more than others.
In
But
franchise comics, it's one custodian after another, right?
right. And like he'll come in the middle of a run and you're just like, this is like a seamless transition. I didn't notice anybody knew was on, that kind of thing. And it's not that he's not spectacular or he doesn't stand out. He does have his little quirks and stuff in his writing, but uh, for the most part, I think his creator owned work speaks better of him than his franchise work. That being said, he was contracted by Marvel to write a kind of interstitial, uh, digital only. I think it's Marvel Unlimited, the digital thing that they do, uh, that ties into this Age of Revelation X-Men story. To summarize that real quick, Doug Ramsey, who longtime readers will know as Cypher, has been named the heir of Apocalypse, and his name is now Revelation. So this story that's taking place currently,
And Apocalypse is the first mutant.
yes, canonically, it would be uh, Namor, but he precedes Namor because he was in ancient Egypt. But Apocalypse, also a very big Darwinian type of villain where the strongest survive, and he has his four horsemen of Apocalypse. And Archangel at one point, Angel, got transformed into the death embodiment of the four horsemen. Wolverine at one point was the death embodiment for Apocalypse after. Uh,
This, this really goes to show how I have not read an X-Men comic in a
it's
long
it's
time.
yeah, I haven't either, to be honest with you. It's just that these are things that I remember. I'm like, oh yeah, that happened.
I think
Um,
my run ends in the 80s when I last read
Jesus
X-Men.
H, like mine's at least in the 2000s.
Yeah, I don't think I got as far. I mean, we're talking about like Chris Claremont was still writing his original run,
Mm,
and it was like after John Byrne, there was Dave Cockrum, Paul Smith, John Romita Jr., I believe,
mhm.
Dave Cockrum again, and then I think Silvestri shows up at some point,
Silvestri,
and then I'm out.
and then like it splits with Jim Lee. No, Jim Lee does some after Silvestri, I think. Um,
And then there was like a new X-Men #1, which I probably bought a copy of, and I
right.
was like, all right, whatever. Again, I'm not criticizing it. I just was
Yeah,
I had my X-Men. Let's put it
yeah.
that way.
So Tim, this is an alternate future story that they like to do, kind of like Age of Apocalypse was an alternate world where Professor Xavier was killed early on, and instead Magneto was the one that shepherded the X-Men, and the Apocalypse took over the world, et cetera, et cetera. It's the X-Men. It's just the best thing Chris Claremont ever did was he differentiated the X-Men from, say, the Avengers or Fantastic Four by truly making it a soap opera. That's why I remember all this stuff. It's like my
Mhm.
grandmother, when she used to watch General Hospital, she would be able to recall all that stuff. It just, that's what it's soap
But and
opera.
before we move forward on this story that Tim Seeley did, it's always bothered me that what's the difference between being bitten by a radioactive spider or getting belted by gamma rays or having to build an iron suit, right? Or getting a super serum versus being born with a power. Like, why does that make you worse to be a mutant? And why
You
why
know,
does society shun mutants? I mean, yeah, they can be scared of Spider-Man. They can question the authority of an Iron Man and wonder about where's Captain America stand on the right or the left or in the middle. But like, I was just born. I hit puberty and I have a power now. Like,
it
why is that bad?
it's because the you're supposed to believe that the humans of the world of the Marvel universe are smarter than regular people, like real people, because the inherent thing is humans fear the next evolution, the next evolutionary cycle, because they fear of the whole replacement theory. So
Okay.
like if we let mutants propagate and procreate, they're going to take over humanity, and humanity will then be superhumanity instead of regular humanity, which
Or you're a weak link, or you're the or like the idea that mutants will rise and destroy
right.
people without powers because that's how humans think, because humans are assholes. I have a different take, and I actually kind of agree, and thank you for sharing that because
Yeah, yeah.
that made me think a little bit more about how that works. But I also think that it's about puberty. When you hit puberty, you're a teenager, like 13, 14, 15, 16, whatever, and you're such an asshole. An asshole with powers is what's to be afraid of, right?
Yeah.
Sorry.
But
As
yeah.
you look over your shoulder.
Yeah, I thought I had one of my prepubescent children coming in. Um, but the idea, like I said, it assumes that human beings think about this stuff all the time when it's not. So
Mhm.
that's why you have a lot of the allegory of races and marginalized people, being part of the X-Men, not part of the X-Men, but part of the X-Men mythos.
Right.
But back to Tim Seeley. So Tim Seeley was contracted to write a story that takes place in the Age of Revelation, the current future story that's going on. And the story was based around a character being killed during this story and then reverting to a different aspect of that character, meaning Magik, aka Colossus's sister, Ilyana Rasputin.
And
Uh,
magic with a K, right?
yes, she was killed, and as a result the dark child demon aspect of her personality came out. And so what the if I interpret this correctly, the kind of the friction, I guess, is that people are calling out the idea that this was a trauma for her, um, the character, that she got past, and you're basically dead, like in a way dead naming her, like
Mm.
like in the trans community, or bringing or as I like to say, bringing up old shit.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
and it rubbed fans of the character wrong, and some people just do not have some people should have the internet taken away from them or access to it, because there's no need for a death threat about this stuff.
Right.
Like I
Right.
saw, like on Bleeding Cool, they actually had some of the screenshots of the text tweets. As a result, Tim has left Twitter, which I'm surprised anybody's still on there now. That's
I'm surprised on it because I barely use it. I was never good at it.
hmm.
I don't like it. I should just leave it. And like I don't need a death threat to leave it. Nobody does.
No, I left just because I didn't want Tesla, uh, Elon Musk, to have any access to anything that I speak about.
Right.
It has nothing to do with me being afraid to speak my mind. I don't really care. It's just I'm not going to like encourage the inherent racism of a South African uh, emerald mine heir, I guess he is,
Mm.
to let others speak ill of other people.
And
So
didn't they just announce that they shut down Doge like eight
yeah,
months before it was supposed to be shut down or something? And like,
yeah,
what a clusterfuck.
we were supposed to get supposed to get like every American was supposed to get $2,000 check as a result of Doge's efficiency and of the tariffs. And you see all these people just like any day now I'm going to get this Doge check,
Mm,
like Christmas is going to be good this year because we're going to get this Doge check, and then Doge shuts down and nobody's getting checked.
no,
It's
no.
like how can you be conned by these people so often?
It's ridiculous. It's
So anyway,
ridiculous.
so back
So
to
anyway, so Tim Seeley, basically the writer of this comic, I don't even, was the artist attacked? We don't even hear about
I
whether
don't know
the
if
artist.
the artist is Philip Sevy. I'm sure he probably got some of it, but you know, it's so weird because they being the internet comic book fandom, they're very canny and they know that like these stories are like the art. I think they assume that the artist is chained to a drawing board and has to draw what's written on
Mhm.
the page, so they blame the writer. But no one brings up editors ever.
Yeah, I know. And I think you mentioned that last night was
Yeah,
like, it had to be ultimately approved by an editor at the comic book company at
yeah.
Marvel, you know?
It goes to an assistant editor. It goes to an editor. At some point, a letterer is looking at it and going, "Hey,
Yeah,
do we really want it?" And nobody batted an eye because it's just a story. It's just a story. You
right,
can ignore it and you can move on with your life, or you can dwell on it like this and cause harm. You know,
right.
like or threaten to cause harm. Like true harm.
And Tim Seeley is well regarded and probably wasn't trying to hurt anybody with his story,
Right.
or the story. And again, I don't know what the mandate was. I have not read the story. What we're talking more about is, well, what I also saw was like some people saying, "Man up, why can't you take some criticism?" It's not about taking criticism.
Right.
It's when people write
Yeah.
die, or threatening his life and his family's life. Like, no, you don't need that shit. That's
No.
bullshit. That
No.
should be illegal, and Twitter should have a better enforcement than that.
Well, why would they? They have a
Right.
fascist leaning uh Sig Heiling, owner. Like
Yep.
anyway, but the point being that like I understand that, stories stories are a lot more powerful than we give them credit for sometimes, or sometimes we understand the power of a story and the power of a storyteller. And the problem is that there's these parasocial relationships between fans and creators, or the most famous one being John Mulaney, the comedian, who right before he went to rehab uh, announced he was divorcing his wife, and people were like, like, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense because you're pregnant, your girlfriend's pregnant, happens to be another famous person, and like people criticizing him for what his life choices are. It's like, that's his choice, man. Like, what, you can't take that choice away from him.
First of all, life is complicated. People are complicated, and we can't just sit here and be moral cops all day long. Like,
That's a good point.
I mean, yes, you can have a knee-jerk reaction. You can be like, say what? Try to do the math, and oh, so and so is being naughty or whack or whatever, and you cannot want to support that person. That's fine,
Mm.
but like to take it to the level of like basically suggesting how people should run their lives, unless they're being truly evil, and we know those people
Right.
where you just want them to just go away and forget having access to the internet, having access to humanity. I
Yeah,
mean,
Ray Anthony Height, who was he was the guest last night for Bob. He and I really tight, and we talk on the phone just as much as you and I do. And
Mhm.
one of the things, like, we'll bring up like a topic like this, um, or similar, and we'll both just kind of like get quiet on the phone, and just like one of us just breaks it, like, I don't care, like,
I
and,
mean,
and why would I, like, why, and
because
why
you know
should,
what, you're an adult now. You're
yeah,
I hazard to say a mature adult because I had to say
uh,
that about myself. But I think you just don't care because you just don't care anymore.
I
Like
mean,
you don't care.
there are things that I care about, obvious, the way people are treated, the way people talk to each other, the way, one of the things we're taught as creators is don't talk about another creator like poorly, just find yourself out of the conversation, like,
Was
don't.
Bob Harrison last night saying, and I totally agree with this. I've talked to Whitney Matheson about this. I'm sure I've talked to you about this. Why would I waste my time telling you what I didn't like
Mhm,
when I could tell you what I do like? Because
right,
there's enough stuff I like. I'd rather turn you on than turn you off. But
right,
meanwhile, we're going to talk about a movie, and I don't know your opinion about it.
right.
And it may turn into you hated it. What and why are we talking about it? Well, it's because
Uh-huh.
I asked you to watch a movie, which is why I want to
Yeah,
talk to you.
yeah.
But just to wrap up the Tim Seeley thing, I, I applaud him for leaving a platform, which I assume the platform needed him more than he needed it.
I feel like as comic creators, and as creators in a very niche media outlet, we're kind of brought up in a way to think that we need to use all available social media platforms for marketing. And I'm here to tell you that Twitter's not it.
Oh
Neither is
no,
Facebook for the most part, but I have more of my family on Facebook than not, so it's easier to get them to see that, oh, you know that asshole's doing good, like, he's doing
sure,
well for himself, that kind of thing. But
sure,
like the reality is, like, when you look at your Kickstarter, like, when you're doing a Kickstarter, let's say, and you look at where your link is being clicked from,
right,
and like you see, like, it's barely anything on Kickstarter. I mean, I'm sorry, barely anything on Facebook, but you're getting these native Kickstarter website. It popped up in somebody's algorithm, and there you're getting more. It shows that you don't need Facebook ads, or you don't need Twitter or Instagram or anything like that. They're nice, like, you do reach a bigger audience, but like the problem is the audiences are very, half on, half off. I wouldn't say wishy-washy, because that's kind of insulting the people that are on. But like, how many people have told you, oh, I didn't know you were running a Kickstarter, and like
right.
you're posting it every day. So what does it matter, like, if Kickstarter, if Facebook or Twitter isn't really getting that message across to the people that want to see it? So again, like,
Well, I mean, again, and like what you're actually saying is when you decide to create a profile, what are you using it for? Are you using it to talk about the world every day and react to like the two gunmen who were shooting near the
National
White House
Guardsmen.
today, National Guards, and shooting national. Oh no, sorry, they got shot. I don't know
Mhm.
if they died or not, and then I think they've caught the guy who did the shooting.
Yeah,
So
it's unclear,
it's
but
unclear right now.
they were
But are you there
critical.
to react to that online all day long, or are you there because you're an author or an artist or a musician and you want people to know about your stuff?
Yeah.
I kind of do both. Like, I don't necessarily go on to talk about two National Guardsmen that got shot, but I'll talk about other stuff plus what I want you to know about me,
Well,
and I
let's
share other people's work
yeah.
or things
Well,
because that
because you're
is also who
propagating the
I am.
community. Yeah, you're
Well, community
propagating the
and
community. So,
yeah, exactly. So
like Anthony Jeselnik, who's a comedian that we both enjoy, Pittsburgh boy, by the way. He had a bit in one of his comedy specials where I think it was, he's like, everyone expects me to say something about the big event of the
mhm.
day. And they're like, as soon as it hits the news wire, I'm getting texts. He says he's getting texts. Don't do it. don't do it, and he's like, I'm gonna, and he just goes on and he goes, and he's like, the Aurora gunman, that Aurora, Colorado, Batman, uh, the Dark Knight Rises screening, the guy who shot up
Right.
the theater, and he goes, and Anthony Jeselnik's only tweet was the movie any good?
It was a movie to get right.
Which maybe you're not going to laugh right away, but that's a funny thing to say.
Oh yeah, I mean, yes, he's a
As a
cerebral,
New Yorker,
he's a cerebral comedian.
as a New Yorker, as two New Yorkers, really,
Yeah,
as somebody that's lived there, was born there, lived there for X amount of years, moved away, then moved back and lived there for another amount of years, moved away, moved back for another couple of years. I think I'm not alone in saying this, but I do laugh at inappropriate jokes, like jokes about 9/11, because at this point, my the heaviness that I felt, I don't ever stop feeling that, but the heaviness that I felt for the first couple of years about it, and being sensitive to it and everything, I can finally breathe, and like
mm.
there are funny takes. It might not.
Dude, I was telling Mike Houston today, and because he's not really on Instagram, so I showed him a couple of things that you shared with me, and I was like, I have entered an Instagram jihad with Vito Delsante because we attack each other every night,
every day,
and we don't really talk about it. I've mentioned this before, and he's like, "What are you showing me?" He's like, and he said, and I said, "You should if you were more involved on Instagram, I too could share this with you." And he said, "I just want to write my book."
He's already seeing that stuff.
And he's already seen it in real life. He's just like, listen, I want to watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre at night. He wants to watch Lilo and Stitch. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I get it.
I send you videos of people falling down like literal like chasms.
Dude, those are snuff films. They stop right before they die. Those people are dying.
There's a guy in this video I sent Dean last night where he's climbing up a building, and like he's using his arms and legs, and then he gets to the top,
and he can't do
and
anything.
he doesn't know where to go, and like he tries to swing his leg over to try to like brace with his back, and he just falls straight down.
Yeah, man.
And like you probably just watch somebody injure or kill themselves.
Exactly.
It's hard to say.
It's horrible. It's horrible.
But you just like you wince and you go, okay, next. Like
I know. And they do it for you. They go, next, here's another one. Watch this one. It's horrific. Every night before I go to sleep. Speaking of like this heaviness you talk about and being able to breathe, I sound like a gasket that like it just spraying some kind of hot water out of every orifice because of the way you send me is so raw. And what's amazing is I don't see those. I get them from you. And then I hope I'm sending you stuff maybe you haven't seen. And once in a while, there might be a crossover.
You sent me one today that was an AI video, clearly, of cats farting and flying across the room.
I usually don't send us.
I'm sitting in my lunchroom dying. Like first of all, I'm like, this is the dumbest thing ever. Why would anybody spend the time to like make this video on AI?
Right.
And I'm cracking up no matter like regardless, in spite of myself.
Oh my God. It's
So
hilarious. All right. So do we do there's one subject I want to talk about that requires actually some thought in terms of coming up with an era. Should we do that after?
No, let's do the movie talk. But before I go, 9/11 wasn't funny, but there are funny takes about it. Pete Davidson being one of the best, comedians to talk about it because his dad died in the towers. He was a firefighter. Pete Davidson, the comedian, was on Saturday Night Live. He's got funny takes about it, and I feel like if he's making light of it, we can laugh at it.
Right. Well, and that was the famous SNL thing. Are we allowed to be funny again?
Right.
And the response was, "You were never funny." But okay,
were you ever? And to put a button on Tim Seeley, you're always welcome on our show. You're always like one of these days we'll reach out to talk about this nonsense and this nothing issue, basically.
You're right.
But
or the next nonsense he gets involved in, because he is a guy who writes comics on a regular basis. I think he wrote a series I have not read yet Actually, I read the first issue and went, oh, I'm going to hold on to this
Hmm.
and I'll read the whole thing when it's done. I think it was 13 issues called Local Man.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. That was his.
So I'm curious to finally crack that and read it because it looked like a lot of fun.
Yeah, Tim's a
All
good
right,
guy.
so yeah.
Doesn't
So
deserve any of this.
so there was a movie I watched, I asked you to watch because I thought it was up your alley in terms of some of the stuff that they address.
I
And the
can't
movie's
wait to
called,
hear where you saw that. But yeah.
okay, well, Eddington. It's called
Mhm.
Eddington. And it's Ari Aster, the filmmaker who did Hereditary,
Yes.
and I believe this is his fourth film, I believe,
I think he
or
did
feature film.
Midsummer too, right?
He did Midsummer, did Hereditary. I liked Hereditary better than I liked Midsummer. I know some people who love Midsummer, and I think it's fine, but I don't love it.
That movie is we're not talking about that movie. The old man jumping off the mountain was the only time I got like
You mean
stunned.
Midsummer?
Yeah.
Hereditary is when, spoiler, a character is literally sawing their own head off. And I'm like, who even wrote that? Like, how do you write that?
Him. He writes and directs most of
Yeah,
his
he
movies.
writes and directs his movies.
Yeah.
So
And he wrote and directed this
Eddington,
one.
so yeah, and so the quick setup for Eddington basically is it takes place May 2020, which is about 2 or 3 months out from the pandemic starting, COVID-19. And it takes place in a small town, I forget where, New Mexico maybe or
Yes.
something, or
Hmm.
and Pedro Pascal is the current mayor running for re-election, and Joaquin Phoenix is the sheriff who decides to run for mayor for various reasons, but one of the major reasons being that he doesn't want to wear a mask, and the mayor wears a mask. I don't know if he insists upon it, but there's a division, a divide, as there was for a lot of people, whether or not you should wear a mask. Is this real? Is it a hoax? Is it coming to our town? What's going on? And then there are other kind of like a lot of other nuances to the story, and then ultimately it starts to involve the characters, where it becomes about protests and little riots, and what is authority, and who to believe, and what to believe, and then it toward, and you don't see it coming, or it's kind of hinted at, but then it goes bananas at the end.
There's a couple other things that possibly if you want to watch it, you need to know. Emma Stone plays Joaquin Phoenix's wife. She seems to be very troubled. You find out kind of later on why that is, and also why she's not.
She doesn't like to be physically touched.
Right. And
And I do they ever, did you feel like they ever truly answered part of the, I don't want to give too much away, but
no, because
feel like,
they cut off her statement. So you don't I'm pretty sure in her statement.
mm-hmm.
So again, I'm trying to keep this as spoiler free as possible. Uh, Joaquin Phoenix makes first of all, he's on his phone all the time, like your grandmother on Facebook scrolling through, like he's laying in bed scrolling through Facebook,
Right.
looking at like anti BLM memes and anti Fauci memes, or things like that. So he's kind of, I would say, lost in the sauce to begin with, and then he's got his own version of the truth that he feels like if he lets this out, he will become the next mayor, and he lets it out, and the night of, you kind of feel like, oh, he probably really did, like sway people, like his way, and then the next day his wife posts a video and then leaves him, and
Yeah.
and hooks up with Austin Butler. And the thing
Who's
is,
basically like not Manson type guy, but let's just call him a Manson type, free
he's
spirited,
definitely
you know,
in some kind of like Christian
both.
cult type of
Right.
thing. But I think it's cultish only because of the way he presents his ministry, so to speak, quote unquote. It's hard to really parse if it's a ministry or if it's just TED Talks, that kind of thing. It's a very nuanced character. I got to give it to. Like he might be
He's like a Jim Morrison if Jim Morrison was a cult,
right.
kind of a thing.
I feel like he was my favorite part of the movie. Like his introduction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like it kind of happens kind of out of nowhere, but like it's still kind of cool. And then like the ending with that character, forget it. And then you have the mother-in-law moved in with them. She's kind of stuck there because of COVID restrictions.
Who, by the way, played the Penguin's mother in the Penguin TV show.
Right.
And she's fantastic.
She's amazing. But like the movie.
And there are other things that happen. There are other things that we're not even talking about.
It's a very layered, and like the layers just keep getting heavier and heavier and heavier, and they keep pushing down.
And it's done like a Western, like a neo-Western. Yeah.
The funny thing is, if you read the like on HBO Max, it's on HBO Max if you want to watch it. If you read the description, and I think even on IMDb, if you read the description, you could be totally, in the like you wouldn't be wrong thinking, oh, this is a comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the way they set it up is like a comedy.
It is like a comedy.
No one's laughing. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like MASH in that respect, and like this kind of gallows humor type of thing, But then like you start like you're not expecting to laugh, because it's an Ari Aster movie, so it's not going to be funny, but it's just like this. If it's anything, it's a comedy of errors, where the comedy isn't inherently funny.
It felt very Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
The thing about it is where it was a good buildup. And then like the incident happens that changes everything. But the problem is it happens in a weird spot in the movie. It's not exactly halfway. It's a little bit over halfway through the movie.
Over half. Yeah.
And it's like, like I just remember,
where's this movie going to go now? Where's the story going?
And then it just goes completely off the rails. It makes like it as a storyteller who sometimes gets paid to tell stories. I wouldn't have done that.
We're introduced to a group of people vaguely that then interfere with the story. Right?
They come on a jet to New Mexico. Like, what are you talking about?
So it becomes really absurd, but it plays into the absurdity. So in some ways, I was entertained by it, but when I thought about it, I was like, really? Why is this happening? You know? And then there's like some couple of little payoffs, like the kid that's trying to impress the girl. That guy, I like that little arc he had. I kind of believe that arc, but it is hard to swallow the craziness that happens after the incident that changes the movie.
This isn't the incident, but this is something you can look forward to if you watch it. There's a part where a grenade or a landmine goes off, and Joaquin Phoenix being the main character, you know he's not going to die in this respect, but you feel like the other two characters did, but one of them shows up at the end of the movie. You're like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense.
Well, in a way it does, because the eye did move. Whatever. That's a little bit of a spoiler, but
right.
But also it's not that much of a spoiler because, so he's a sheriff, so he has two cops that work with him, right? So they become kind of like, in a way, that's where also the comedy is, because they're kind of clownish. Like, they're serious, but they're also kind of, are they dumb?
It's also brought up that he is a very, I wouldn't say a bad boss, but he's a terrible kind of authority figure. So why would he run for mayor? Like, one of the best lines, I think Pedro Pascal says, like, you can't do my job. You can't even do your job. Like, basically.
Well, in a way, so it's hard to root for anybody in this movie.
Oh my
because, I mean, I guess I lean more toward Pedro, his character, because he's not that, but our hero is kind of like, God, you know what he's also like? He's a Coen Brothers character.
Absolutely.
Totally, like Coen Brothers meets Paul Thomas Anderson. So in a way, I do recommend watching it.
Mm-hmm.
I do think, and I don't call it plot holes. I think it was built into the
No, I
story.
don't think there's a plot hole in it. I think it's just that's the story. And the story
That's the story.
is it's not that it's weak, it's just the absurdity of how it ends or how it crescendos to the end
Yeah.
um, is kind of it's it almost overshadows performances, because like you're just watching like the thing that you have to understand too is that again COVID plays a big part of the plot, but it's such a secondary thing that you have to just keep watching and paying attention, and you have to start thinking, wait, is COVID affecting this guy's mind? Is
Well,
it
I did think because there was coughing and there was, I assumed that ironically the guy who didn't want to wear a mask was going to die from COVID, and
that's what I thought.
maybe
Yeah,
that's a little bit of a spoiler because maybe you're supposed to be thinking that, and then there's an ending that happens where you're just watching it. At that point, you were so close to the character, and then at the end, I felt such a distance from the character. Does that make
and
sense?
yeah, absolutely. Like I felt a distance from him uh probably earlier than that. Um but kind of like, because he's presented as a heroic type of character, or at least the protagonist of
He's the protagonist, yeah.
and even though Pedro Pascal is set up as the antagonist, you like him more, but you also realize that he's selling out the city or the town for some kind of big tech company, to bring
Right,
in money and revenue
right,
like that.
right.
So you're like his motives are this way, and then the other guy's motives are this way, and it's a very and the thing is the weird thing is that is enough to run a counter campaign on as a mayor. Like, we don't want these guys coming in, but
Right.
that never plays a part in the opposite campaign. Like he's got misspellings on his car. This is the
I know, it's great.
funniest thing. That might be the funniest thing. Like he's got
So,
like all these
so
like kind of like uh Trumpian type
right.
little slogans on his car because he's driving around campaigning, and like they're misspelled, and it's just like Jesus, it's
It
so
also felt very like if Jim Thompson was alive today, this is might have been maybe the plot of a story with some characterizations,
maybe yeah.
a little bit. I mean, as a very advanced version of a Jim Thompson type of. I
That's what's funny about you saying that is as I'm watching it I'm thinking, oh, this is very Happen Leonard in a way.
mhm.
Not so much in characterization, although you could maybe make the argument that because of their opposing views, that they have that kind of like
Well, we're talking Joe R. Lansdale, the writer, has a series
right.
called Hap and Leonard that's great,
Yeah, and
and
I was thinking about it as and I think it's just because of the setting, not
steady.
thinking
But you're right; they are like two sides of the coin.
about,
At one point, because of what Joaquin Phoenix does in the movie, at one point, and this happens in a lot of movies where you watch someone do something bad, and then you're trying to, and then they almost are going to get busted or caught if they don't do this, if they don't do that, and then you're rooting for them to not get caught, even though they did a
wrong,
bad thing, right?
absolutely wrong.
So no, but real quick, so I look at Jen and I go, who's watching the movie with me for a second, I go, we're not supposed to be rooting for him, right? She goes, no. I was like, but then she's like, but I want him to get away with it because it's so weird, like how movies do that to you, or stories can make you, root for the wrong side sometimes because that's their
That's
story.
that's the what's the Michael Douglas where he goes crazy
Oh, falling down.
falling down. I said I almost thought walking down. What does that even mean? But yeah, like you kind of like that's that kind of movie where everyone is like um this guy's rage is kind of justified, so they want to see him take it too far. But then you realize this dude's kind of racist. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like maybe we don't want Michael Douglas to succeed. And the
right.
thing about it is, I didn't want that guy to succeed in the movie. I wanted to see, and then every time you think he's got about something happens, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
something else
yeah,
happens, and then
yeah,
the absurdity of going into a gun shop and bringing out a friggin'
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah.
like it was just
Yeah.
like it was
So
so
that's why it's very Coen Brothers meets Paul Thomas Anderson meets like Neo, Jim Thompson. And the reason why, and this is why I like to bring it up and want you to watch it, is because this is also us talking about the process of creativity. Sometimes you see something, and I watched this movie, and all I kept thinking is, what would Vito do? How would Vito have written this? And it felt like it hits certain hot spots in terms of what you like to think about and write.
Mhm.
You know, politics. You should be running for mayor anyway for in Pittsburgh. You know, like
Right.
so, like so. I kept thinking, oh, Vito, Vito, Vito. But how would Vito be challenged by this, or what would he do if he was in this pickle? And that's why I wanted you to see the movie because I kept thinking about you.
Yeah, I can see a lot of that in there, but I know that like for me to explain what I would do, I might veer into
Right.
spoiler territory, but ultimately, I don't like Don Draper. I don't think you're supposed to like Don Draper,
Me from Mad Men,
right? And I don't like Walter White per se,
from Breaking Bad.
from Breaking Bad, or Tony Soprano from The Sopranos. These are all flawed heroes that aren't really heroic. You
But is
know,
that hindsight? Is that, I mean, except for Tony
oh,
Soprano, it's got to be
maybe,
hindsight because when you first meet Walter White, it's called Breaking Bad. He
right.
has to get to bad,
He's
right?
not there yet. Right.
Don Draper is very charming, and right out the gate, you do find out he's living a double life.
Mhm.
But who is this guy? And then we have to find out who this guy is. You know?
Right. I mean, there's part of that, but I think also that I remember watching it was after New York Comic Con. It was like it had just ended on Sunday, and there was a premiere of The Walking Dead season two, maybe three, that night. So Michelle, Caleb Monroe, who's another fellow comic book writer, and my daughter's godfather, and we all went back to my apartment and we watched the season premiere. And I remember Caleb saying, and it always stuck with me. He's like, these are hard to like. This show is hard to watch because you don't really root for anybody. There's nobody worth saving in this world. Like in this kind of post-apocalyptic zombie world. Like there's nobody to root for because they all have like all these awful flaws. Like, and that's a like
We're talking about Walking Dead right now, right?
yeah. And
So I'm trying
I'm
to think
very
who I
interested
was
in
rooting
seeing
for.
before you say it, I'm very
Yes.
interested in seeing the latest Thomas Anderson movie, the
Oh my! I heard it's
one
amazing. I can't wait to
one
see it.
what is it? One something after another.
One battle after
One battle
another.
after another. Yeah, like because I feel like Sean Penn and Leo DiCaprio are playing those two kind of irredeemable hero types, and they keep
Mm-hmm.
butting each like butting into each
Mm-hmm.
other. So like
And Benicio del Toro
yes,
in
yeah,
it.
I'm very
So
interested in seeing that movie.
and apparently there's a female actress in it that's amazing.
Mhm.
Though I think she's pregnant with like a machine gun in the trailer.
Of course.
Um, no, but anyway, I what's great about Eddington is that it is entertaining. It does make you think. I'm sure smarter people be like could tear it apart or tell me why it's good or bad or whatever. I don't care.
Mhm.
But I do think it's the kind of thing I watch and it does spark creativity in me.
I mean, there's part of that. There's again, like I'm not a professional screenwriter. I've written one or two, or attempted to. I wrote a television pilot, so I've got a little bit of a handle on the form, but in terms of story, I think my interests lie on it. The movie that did this, and the book, I should say, that did this best for me is No Country for Old Men, where the hero of the movie ends up being a victim of not his greed, but his hubris that he could get away with it, that he could, you know, avoid the killer of killers kind of thing. Like that to me is a lot more interesting. Whereas in this one, the opposite, almost exactly the opposite happens.
Mm-hmm.
And instead
Mm-hmm.
of the hero getting um the comeuppance for his hubris, It's like everybody else does.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
literally the entire town does.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed it. I wouldn't say I loved it, or that
Right,
you know, I, I might watch it again.
right, right.
But like it's a hard thing to find somebody to cheer for in that movie.
Yeah.
Or I mean, you did, but like for me, like I feel like my aesthetic goes the other way.
Well, it's funny because I wouldn't say I thought I had something to cheer for, and then I realized,
Oh,
there's not really.
that
And I
ending in that last scene just like
yeah,
take me out a little bit. Like,
I'll tell you the one moment that took me out of the movie. At the very end, there's a scene where people are sitting on a stage.
mhm,
I won't say what had happened to the main characters or anything.
mhm.
And there's someone talking, a woman, I believe. And did you see who was sitting right next to her? And then I had to look it up. I was like, you gotta be kidding
Oh
me.
no, I didn't.
If you go look at it, I don't know how you watched it, but if you go look at it again,
Yeah.
it's Dan Clowes.
Shut up.
Dan Clowes is sitting next there, and he has a character name like Johnny Salomon or something like that. And
That's
I looked
insane.
it up, and it is him. And Ari Aster is a fan of his work, so they
That
became friends. So
and
he actually, and I don't know if he had lines originally or anything like that. It got
it
cut
got
out,
cut.
kind of a thing. So he's just sitting there on stage as one of the people that are part of this presentation. And I'm like, why is Dan Clowes in them? And now I'm not watching the movie anymore.
Right,
I'm just
right.
like, I'm confirming in my brain, that's Dan Clowes, right? No, that's Dan Clowes. And then, of course, after the movie, I confirmed it. I was like,
Now I have to watch it again.
how did Dan Clowes throw me off like that, man? Anyway,
Yeah, see, I thought you had mentioned that there was a cameo in the movie. I thought you meant Joaquin Phoenix's male member.
oh, then
I'm like, oh,
that's
okay.
hilarious. Then there's
It's
that.
funny. Like I had paused it at one point. Paused it, not there. Let me go back. I paused it when there was 27 minutes left, and I
Right,
texted you and I said, I don't think I'm going to finish this in time for the show. And you're like, just we'll start the show late. Just finish it. So I
right.
paused it, but when I replayed it at that point, it shows you all the warnings. Like it's like rated R,
Oh, the
nudity. And I was like,
nudity.
where's the nudity?
Where's
I
the
didn't see. And
nudity?
then the nudity happened, and I was like, oh,
There it is. There it is. Okay, well, I'm thanks for watching the movie so we can talk about it. The other thing I want to talk about briefly is a
oh,
book I just got.
before you jump into
Yeah,
that, um, my other movie recommendation would be The Sting,
right.
Robert Redford and Paul Newman. I told Dean the second I finished watching it, I was like, wait a minute, this isn't. I thought it was The Hustler. I thought The Hustler and The Sting were the same
The,
movie.
the the movie about pool playing. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And I was like, well, where's Jackie Gleason? Where's Minnesota Fats? And I'm like, oh, this is a totally different. So I never saw The Sting until I watched it, and it was absolutely fantastic. It was entertaining. I
Great.
kind of knew what the ending would be, like the ending of the big con would be, but it was still, like. And then I was saying to Dean on the phone, like, you still. You might know that what's coming because of everything you've seen since this movie came out.
Right.
And
Right.
it's like, oh, so they probably got it from this, that idea to do that. And then that's why I'm so conditioned to it. But it's still well made. It's still a fun movie to watch. I'll watch forever, at this point. But
Totally, man. No, it's one of the greats. With some of the greats.
yeah.
Uh, so there's a book that I'm going to show here on YouTube called Before Superman.
Now, how did you get that?
Uh, and I think Seth is the designer of the covers. I think he might have even drawn that. And it's part of a series that MIT publishes called
Oh,
God, what is it called? The publishing concern. It's well, the series is called the Radium Age book series, and MIT Press, Cambridge, Massachusetts, and Superhumans of the Radium Age. Okay, and it's edited and introduced by Joshua Glenn. I have been privileged to write a couple of essays for Joshua Glenn, including my Substack that I posted today, where I wrote about Weird Science. The
mhm,
movie was for a Joshua Glenn project on High Lowbrow that Adam McGovern also is a contributing editor and writer for.
mhm.
And so it's a really cool website. And I guess he's been putting out these books with MIT, and you can look it up. There's a whole bunch of books that are part of this Radium Age series, and he's the one who coined the term the Radium Age. Now,
The
if I
nerve.
may, I want to read the back of it because this is talk about being inspired once again. I feel like you, me, Charlie McKelvey, and a handful, like a
Mhm.
lot of other kind of independent superhero creators, for lack of a better term. Uh, and this is where I want to lead to a question.
Mhm.
We're doing a similar type thing, but in modern terms. So I'm
Right.
going to read the synopsis of the book and just listen to some of the cool stuff that's in here. So, superhumans, humans who have evolved into creatures stronger, smarter, and more gifted than we have any reason to be, first showed up in science fictional narratives during the genre's emergent Radium Age. Originally published between 1902 and 1928, the stories and excerpts anthologized in this volume by Joshua Glenn feature the likes of Marie Corelli's Young Diana, who, having been rendered super alluring via a rejuvenation experiment, seeks revenge on a sexist society. Francis Stevens' Thomas Dunbar, one of the first lab-created superhumans. Zoo and Eva, superwomen who contemplate the extermination of us mere mortals, thanks to George Bernard Shaw and H. Rider Haggard.
Hmm.
And Alfred Jerry's Andres Marculial, a scientist who develops a super sexual capacity. Plus Tarzan's in here. It's about 12 stories that are either excerpts or short stories, so it's very readable. It's a handy dandy, paperback that I got. And I just love the idea of this book, right? Because I love anthologies. And it begged the question, if that what did he say? 1902 to 1928, that was before, we ever got a Superman, or a superhero
Well,
character.
1928 is a very specific year. And it's first of all, it's post, let's see, 1914, 19. It's post World War One, like a lot, of
Right.
time since World War One ended at that point. Um, it's it's somewhat pulp age, like, even though, but 1928 is a very weird. It's 10 years before Superman debuts.
Right.
And so you have, like, it doesn't mention the Shadow, it doesn't mention any of the Condé Nast or Smith and Street pulp characters, which I find really interesting. 1928, it feels like that is pre what is the name? It's definitely pre Doc Savage, but like it might even be right on the cusp of it. Like,
So it's very significant, like you said, it's a 26-year time capsule
yeah,
right before we get Doc Savage, Shadow, Spider, um, all the pulp heroes and characters and spin-offs, and then we veer into Superman, right? And then Batman, Wonder Woman, and so on and so forth. So that's really cool. You can read these stories. I'm curious to even read the way people wrote back then, like
here's something I just looked up. 1928 falls squarely within the peak of the pulp era for many genres. Amazing Stories, which was the first, considered one of the first pulp magazines, started in 26. So
okay.
um, it's so weird. Like pulp, they consider pulp fiction to be from 1890s to the 1950s.
Oh,
So
weird.
this falls,
1890s.
yeah, it falls into like the Radium Age as they're presenting it, falls
Right,
in the pulp age of
right,
fiction. So, but it still ends 10, like according to the book, it ends 10 years before the not the before the invention of the superhero, but before Superman debuts.
right.
I would say that, like, comic books started. Action Comics number one was 38, but Detective was prior to that because Detective 27 came out in 39.
Right.
So if you do the math, 12 a year, that would be 2 years before.
Were they even doing 12 a year? Maybe
Probably
even,
not.
you know,
But like,
you know, um, And Ascenti has a blurb on the back here, which also helps explain the series. The tales collected here by Joshua Glenn offer a rich origin story for the superhuman, a sci-fi trope that would go on to launch 1 million comic books,
Hmm.
and which in our era of the more than human AI is a prescient one.
Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe it was a little adjacent, to Pulp getting to Superman, and
Right.
this was the side of the stuff on the side. I just love the term the Radium Age.
It's a
And
really
with
good
that in
one.
mind, I'm not saying that, I'm going to not necessarily include Marvel and DC in this question. But what age are we living in with our alternative superheroes?
Oh, that's a good question, I guess. If you don't use what we've kind of put forward as the Kickstarter age as a type of be all
Sure.
encompassing type of age, um, that's a good question. Like I like to think I have this theory running that one of these days I'm going to actually put on paper and actually make a thing out of it. But it's such a like college thesis like essay that I would have to do to really make it make sense. That
Mhm.
since I've never graduated college, I never had to do a thesis, so I don't know exactly how to do it. But um, my concept is always about the world tree, Yggdrasil from Norse mythology. The idea that there are 9 worlds branching from it. So I have in my mythology 9 separate worlds that are not like Stray is not on every world. Stray is on one branch, and then these tiny branches, right?
Mhm.
So you have alternative strays coming out of the same big branch, right? So you have Asgard, which would be the realm of heroes, Midgard, which are all realistic stories, like slice of life stories, like World War Mob, for example, and then so on and so forth. Fantasy, Western, noir, uh, kind of whatever you would call
Horror.
it. Yeah, so like those are the 9 worlds, but then like you also have the roots of that go under that are different worlds, that I'm starting to explore in one of these things that I'm developing, and then you have the rings of the tree itself. And
Mhm.
um, the thing that I've come up with is this kind of Fibonacci uh, spiral that exists outside of the tree that will cross into branches and stuff as it spirals, which is how you explain crossovers with
Mhm.
characters from different quote unquote worlds or different
What was that word you said? Fibonacci?
Fibonacci. It's the golden ratio, which you probably know it as. The Fibonacci sequence is basically 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and it's the perfect spiral. Like you see it in nature, you see it
Mhm.
in a lot of things. Like I think
Mhm.
somebody even used it on a comic, to kind of graph it out and stuff. Probably
Mhm.
Mazzucchelli. But the idea of perfection in the universe being like the Milky Way is a Fibonacci spiral, like it's
Mhm.
all these different things. So it's like this idea that, in my estimation, it's like mythology and story are that spiral. And so
Mhm.
whenever you take that spiral and it crosses into a branch, that's where you get a crossover. Whenever,
Mhm.
like it goes, further out and it's into one of the smaller branches, a different type of crossover. Like it's
Mhm.
all these different like branching things that come from the tree. So I call like the name that I have for this, even though like when we talk about stray, we call it a stray verse, or
Mhm.
whenever Matt Major and I create something, we call it the Stray Jerverse because it's Stray and Major mixed
Mhm.
together. And it's like, so he feels that he's creating something a part of the myth. And like we can
Mhm.
kind of trade back and forth. But the overall thing, the like Marvel has a multiverse. DC, I think now is calling their multiverse a metaverse
Mhm.
because there's a top and bottom layer with the absolute. So
Mhm.
what I'm calling it is an axioverse. There's an axiom in the middle, and everything spirals around it.
Mm.
New Brooklyn, meaning other things. Like we were talking about this last week with Charlie about how we do the crossovers, and this is basically my working kind of scholarly theory about it.
So I'm looking up the word axiom right now,
Mm-hmm.
and the definition is a statement or proposition which is regarded as being established, accepted, or self-evidently true. The axiom that supply equals demand is an example.
Mm-hmm.
So in a way, would you dub axioverse? Would you say it's the axiom age?
Yeah, that's where I should have ended with that because I forgot the first question. But yeah, I would say the Axiom Age would be what I would consider my comics being a part of, especially when they play with other toys and other people's.
And I would even hazard, I actually like that term. I even hazard, or not hazard, but like the fact that we don't write and draw monthly comic books for years and years and years,
Mhm.
so we don't have as much material, also keeps us in a kind of a ghetto in a way.
Yeah, it also keeps us honest. Like, you know what I mean? Like it keeps us like because we're not putting out all these different things, we don't have to be a slave to continuity.
Right. Right.
Especially when you have something that mechanically explains continuity being fluid, which is that spiral, that myth spiral, that I was talking about, the
Right.
Fibonacci golden spiral. Like
Right.
it explains the idea that continuity is fluid, everything flows. It's all about story.
No, absolutely. I love that. And like, even though I'll use you, me, and Charlie McKelvey as an example, like Charlie has the Zion verse, you have the Stray verse, we have New Brooklyn. I mean, I don't think Billy Dogma lives. He's in Trip City with Jay Legit. Like, Chess Face is is in Summit City, but he can travel. COVID Cop is 10 years from now, and every time if you read it 10 years from now, it's 10 years from now, from then.
Yeah, always.
It's always going to be 10 years from.
Right.
And I believe that is, well, actually, I do in the second story I'm working on right now. It has some cameos from some of my characters that will firmly place where he is 10 years from now. So I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. I love the packaging of this book. I love the idea before Superman and the Radium Age, and it inspired me to ask you a question about where did we fit maybe in this?
Yeah, whenever I put these things down on paper or on a Google Doc or whatever, like whenever I start, thinking about this stuff, I always try to like the idea that I make up all these characters like that you make fun of me for, that I do this. And it's always in service of a story,
And I'm also laughing, by the way, when you create these characters. I feel like you've created so many homeless characters. They're just waiting for a home.
I know what I'm going to do with, I would say 50% of them. And that's probably put them in the public domain.
Right.
The thing that I always come back to is the 30 characters in 30 days.
Right.
Challenge that I did many years ago. And then I decided I'm just going to do 100 because what's 30? You know what I mean? And so I did 100. And then none of these characters are really, maybe 5 or 6 of them affect Stray, and like a lot of the work that I'm working on. But the whole thing comes from Mark Waid saying that culture is more important than copyright. If you're not adding to the grand myth of what comics can be, comics won't be anything. Like it's not about ownership. It's about contributing something to. Now, granted, I'm not giving Stray away ever.
Right.
That's my kids' livelihood when I'm dead. That's something that I want them to play with and enjoy and create characters and create stories about it because both of them like to tell stories. So like I happy to hand that to them. But some of them,
Mhm.
like you said, are homeless characters that I don't need, like that I
Mhm.
can just
Mhm.
go, all right, here's this character, like
Mhm.
if you find a use for it, you can mention that I created it, but you don't owe me any money. You know,
Mhm.
it's just trying to
Well,
add.
there's culture, and I agree that that's key and important. But then there's capitalism, and that's a world we live in. So we also have to not shoot ourselves in the foot either, you know.
Oh,
But
well, I don't give away the good ones.
yeah, we go. There you
I
go.
mean, I keep the ones that I know that I can tell a story
That's right.
that
That's
not
right.
only that I can tell a story with, but I can tell a decent story with that I can, that will affect Stray in a way.
Right.
One of these characters was the Grand Beast Americus,
Mhm.
the the antagonist in the Stray Beast Within story that I keep telling everybody is like my Antifa statement, like my
Mhm. Mhm.
anti-fascist statement. Like to create a character like that, you really have to um, you got to know exactly what is going to tell your story for you, in terms of iconography and design and stuff. But also, when a character like that comes along in your head, you're like, yeah, this one is not going to be just a one-off. This is something that I want to come back to. This is something that I,
Mhm.
not just say a statement like this issue would be, but also like let's take that statement and expand it. One of the things I said last night to Ray Anthony Height was, how do you take this moment where Black creators are kind of coming together and joining forces to expand their footprint in the comic sphere. How do you take this moment and make it less of a moment and more of a movement? And
Mhm.
like this is something that I took from Hamilton, the musical. Like it's not a moment, it's a movement.
Mhm.
But it applies to all forms of creation. I think that
Mhm.
you can, talking about the stray character, the villain, it could just be enough for a moment, but I really want to make this stick. I really
Mhm.
want to have this character have legs and affect things in the future, whether it's
Mhm.
a stray proper issue, a Strayverse anthology, or a cameo in a different book like
Mhm.
Underboss, something like that. So,
Mhm.
like, some of these characters do just, beg to be, like kind of cast aside and just, like, well, let's use it for cannon fodder, like James Bond movies. Like, you start the James Bond movie with him fighting, somebody on a ski slope, and then the
Right.
actual movie starts.
Right.
You could use it for like that, or you can,
The disposable villain, as it were, a disposable
right.
character. But then you this has happened to me a lot of times too. I created a disposable character and suddenly I fall in love with them. And I'm like, God damn it, I want to do more with that character. So let me ask you, that's the room you're in right now. That's the one with it's also a bathroom, right?
Right there.
So I was just thinking, you were talking about, I was thinking the chair you're sitting in right now is the moment, but the chair next to you is the
Oh,
movement.
the, the bowel movement. Let's not forget Rim Job from last week either. Um, who
Talk about disposable character that's going to have a life of its own.
he's gonna end up being like a crucial character in this Axiom Age probably. But
Absolutely.
like it's the
Absolutely.
weirdest thing how Matt Major really did listen to the show and draw him and sent it to us.
It's amazing. And mention the whip, like what you discovered.
Oh, so I wish I had a picture of him right now. Like the the weirdest thing about him is his name's Rim Job, and we're just like, well, what does that even mean, in terms of like a character? And Matt is so smart, he drew a whip, like a weapon, and somehow somehow or other it looks like a tongue, and I'm like, oh, that's genius. Like, I don't know that he intended that. I should have asked him, but I like it's such a like what a great little addition to it, like just like,
Yeah.
Oh, you
Yeah.
just. Oh, here we go. I found the image. Let's see.
Can you
Um,
pop it up?
yeah, I'm gonna share my screen here in a second. Let me just go back to Zoom and then
Share screen or whatever.
yeah,
Here we go.
there we go.
Oh, oh, there it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably a tongue. It's probably a long ass. It's
I'm
a Gene Simmons tongue.
yeah. Like it's such an intentional shape there, like at the
But
end.
you also see what he's blasting. He's blasting an O-ring.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's up with his ears. Like, why he has antennas? Like,
Oh,
is
because one of the things we mentioned was Rob Liefeld.
oh, so it's got that's why he has all the pouches and
Yeah, yeah.
I
It's
get it.
like
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
somebody said like he's definitely a Liefeld character.
A
Um,
lot of accessories on
yeah.
this guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
Unnecessary accessories.
man, Major
Um,
good.
and just to wrap up this part, and then we'll get into a couple of verses maybe before we
Yeah.
say goodnight. Um, and I shared this with you and Charlie, but Carrie Sanders of Splash Pages
Yes.
wrote me a whole thing proposing an idea of how I don't think she was asking to be the DM, the dungeon master, but I think she should be our dungeon master for our
Absolutely.
proposed game that we want to
Master.
play with our characters. You
Yeah.
know?
So here's if you haven't watched last week's episode, which was live, so but it went to our YouTube page on Monday. Um, we were proposing this idea of taking all of our characters and doing a campaign, like a gaming campaign, where they would all meet and fight, and we would do it either on the show or we would record it live, that kind of thing. And then I said, let's let the winner actually kind of crow about it. And so the idea that we were talking about very early on about the best comic, of the year should, be a wrestling belt, like my comic beat your comic. And
Yep.
I'm like, let's just do that for this character that ends up winning the campaign. And
Yep.
so Carrie, God bless her, she kind of proposed like this, like kind of a way to do the game. And it's like
Yeah.
she should definitely be running this game.
Absolutely. And then you've been designing the belt
Yeah,
or co-designing it, right?
yeah,
Or
Matt Major and I are going to put it together, hopefully, in the new year. And we decided we wanted to go kind of Kirby-ish with like a weird type of look to it, so that it looks like it was something that like an eternal war or something like that.
sure, sure.
And we're calling it the Iconic Belt, which stands for Independent Creator Owned Nexus Infinite Champion.
Yep.
And then next year, so here's the way I look at it. So this year's or next year, whenever we start it, it's more or less like not a battle royal, but like whoever survives the campaign ends up winning. Then I think what we should do for the title defense, it would be kind of a tournament style. So like two people, versus the winner of the other two people, and because I feel
Sure.
like we're going to get more people that are like, I want to get in on this. And
Yep.
so we're going to like, because I think, once we start it, it's going to not avalanche, but like snowball
Yep.
all the way down. It's
Yep.
going to be so much fun.
It'll be a lot of fun. I look forward to that, and we'll get back to Carrie and at some point figure out how to do this game. Is it a
Yeah.
2 hour game? Is it over 12 months? Like, what is it? Is it a tournament? Is it one of our every 3 or 4 episodes we return to the game, as it were?
Yeah.
Who knows?
That might have to be the way. Yeah.
And it could be really annoying to the 6 people who are listening to this.
Six, and we're 6 episodes away from a full year of
I
content.
know.
Like
I
it's going to
know.
be, this might be the second year of the sophomore year like
That's
project.
right. That's right. That's right. All right. So I'm going to get into a couple of verses
Yeah.
to wrap it up, and then verses, as we've explained in the past, is where we pit two creators that we love against each other, as it were, against their will, where we talk about their career, how they might have impacted us, and then who we would choose one over the other if we had to.
Right.
Tonight we're going to start with Matt Wagner versus Jeff Smith. And I know that might seem odd.
It's not. It's not. It's not completely odd. I mean, Matt Wagner. I think it's only odd in terms of the content.
Aesthetics.
Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
aesthetics too. I mean,
They
there's
have very different aesthetics, but they're both, creator-owned characters who have worked in the franchises. I think Matt Wagner has worked more in franchises than Jeff Smith has. Matt Wagner famous for Grendel, for Mage. What's the rest of that? The something hero.
the hero within, the hero defined. It's all
Right.
the
Um,
volumes.
and he
Uh,
wrote, and then there was this whole Grendel universe that exploded from his original idea.
yeah,
He went on to write, I believe, the Trinity characters from DC, and maybe even draw it, as well.
yeah,
He's an artist, a writer. They're both writer artists. Um, I mean, he has a huge career. He's currently writing a Dracula series that Kelly Jones is
yeah.
drawing, and he actually called me up. I think I mentioned this before, when he was going to write a Dick Tracy series for Dynamite, and wanted to know if I wanted to be the artist, and I felt so honored.
Yeah.
And I just realized that I was working on the Red Hook at the time, and there was no way that I could do a monthly series and get paid what Dynamite was offering. And I believe it went to Michael Avon Oeming, who eventually did the series, and he's better than me anyway. And I don't know if you have any other comics to that recommend Matt Wagner.
Recommend Matt Wagner. Um, I feel like anything I recommend is going to be his writing, but
Mhm.
like he's done a bunch of Batman projects where he's written and drawn them. Uh, he did. Dang it, what is the name of it? I think he wrote The Shadow at Dynamite. Um,
Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds right. I mean, he gets around. He gets a lot of work. He's great, and I
he,
love his art style.
what's funny about him is that I think now his son colors him,
Yes,
and like Brennan, and
right.
talent just runs in that family, man. Like
Yep.
it's almost it's kind of like Laura coloring Mike Allred.
Right.
It's like you're so in tune with somebody that you know
Right.
exactly what the page needs and what the book needs, and it just and Sean Phillips' son, he colors
Right.
stuff that
Right.
Brubaker and he put together.
Yep.
So it's
Yep.
just it's just a wonderful, like, I love that kind of collaboration where it's
Well,
just
that's kind of something that you want in your life, I think, right?
at
A
some
little bit.
point, yeah, like I think what I'd really like is for Sadie to start a band and ask me to sing.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
But yeah, like I would love to work with Sadie on comics more. Like when she's interested in doing the comic, like she's got characters. She,
Right.
she learned from me.
Right.
But she's
Right.
got
Right.
characters. She's when she wants to tell a story, I'll help her tell a story. I lettered her first comic. Like
Yep.
I love that. I love working with her. She's
Yep.
smart. Um,
Um, Jeff Smith, famously known for creating Bone, which I believe is about 10 volumes or more. I think it was Bone was the example cited when, we're being told that libraries love at least a 10-volume series because of it creates a voracious reader.
right.
Once you read the first one, you wait to the second one, the third one, the fourth, and then start all over again.
Mhm.
And Bone had that trajectory and blew up to the point it was a black and white comic that now I believe has been colored
Yes.
in a second iteration.
I think
He
it's
also
starting to come out again, like in color.
right. So, and actually, I hung out with Jeff Smith a little bit at SPX in September. Great guy. He basically died,
Yeah,
and his wife saved him, and I think it was a heart thing, and he's lucky to be alive. He also is the co-founder or creator of CXC, or what's uh,
the Columbus show.
the Columbus Show.
Yeah, CXC, Comics Crossroad Columbus.
Right. He also went on to create Razzle, RASL. And then I believe he might have done another project, and he also worked on Shazam at DC Comics. And he was telling me about a new project that he's working on that was sounded amazing. So the guy's another great storyteller with brilliant ideas.
Yeah, he's so everything that works in comics. Do you know what I mean? Like he's enthusiastic about it. He his language in storytelling is just perfect. You know,
Yep.
he is the product of so many different influences, and it's hard to tell which one is the greater influence.
In a weird way to say that, but he's like the heir to Karl Barks in a way,
That's a
like,
really good statement. That's a
right?
really good statement. But and what I'm saying is that like if there were ever a child that could be birthed by a stack of comics, it would be Jeff Smith. Like
Hmm.
he is just everything that makes a comic work.
Yep.
That's Jeff.
Yep.
Maybe
So
maybe he's the child of like Scott McCloud and Will Eisner and
sure,
those philosophies and stuff, and like he just figured out
sure.
his other.
Now, as much as I love, this is a hard one for me because I love the grittiness and the streetwise aspect of a Matt Wagner,
Mhm.
like, and he's definitely created characters that appeal to me maybe a little bit more than Jeff Smith, but Jeff Smith has such like an evergreen classic
Have
art
you ever
style,
have you ever read
storytelling.
Bone?
I haven't read the whole thing. I've read a little bit of Bone.
It's insane how good it is. Like it
Yeah,
like I can't like the thick monster of the book, that was put
right,
together is when you look at it, it looks like it doesn't look like a phone book. It looks like three phone books. Do you know what I mean?
right,
It's
right,
so, and it's like for the longest time, as a adult, you know, so resistant to it, and then I read
right.
it, and it's so charming, and it's
Yeah,
so welcoming. It literally is one of the most easiest books to recommend to anybody that wants to read comics for the first time.
yep,
More so
yep.
than like an Astro Boy, more so than any Superman comic. Like you take the best Superman comic against Bone, and I don't think it's as introductory and user friendly as
Right,
Bone. Like
right.
I just can't see it.
And it's funny because like if you ever think about the Mount Rushmore or the Mount Sinai of comics,
Right?
if we had like levels of that, he is on the Mount Rushmore of comics,
I would say he would be right next to Terry Moore for
Ah,
like independent creator
yeah,
owned, heroes of mine. If
yep.
not of the entire industry. Terry Moore, maybe uh, uh, Eastman and Laird, from the
Hmm.
Mutant Turtles, even though like, we talked about Wendy Pini and Richard Pini versus Eastman and Laird last week. I think Eastman and
Yeah.
Laird are on a black and white comic, creator owned David Lapham, maybe for Stray Bullets.
Mm.
Uh, but Terry Moore definitely Jeff
Hmm.
Smith.
Hmm.
You can argue Eastman and Laird or somebody else, but like I think that's your Mount Rushmore there for those. And I don't know which way you're going. It sounds like I think where you're going is that Jeff Smith would be the pick, and I would 100% endorse that as well.
I
Um,
think it's Jeff Smith, but I'll always remember picking up that issue of Mage, that first issue of Mage, and like this guy has a baseball bat that turns out to be Excalibur, and
Caliber,
you're
yeah.
like, you gotta be kidding me,
And it's not only that, it's such a clever way to redo that mythology. You know,
Yeah,
and I think uh, Kevin Matchstick starts going bald like Matt did.
right. Like
Like
Matt
and so
Wagner.
and it almost becomes autobiography in a sense, in
Hmm.
the same sense that Stray is an autobiography. Like it's
Hmm.
idealized versions of ourselves in our work.
Totally,
And
totally.
the thing, I will always love Hunter Rose Grendel uh,
Yep, me
because
too.
it hit my it hit me at the right moment with
Hmm.
like the pulp sensibilities and the early superhero, like we were talking about the Radiant Age, like that pulp
Absolutely. Yep.
early,
Alex Toth, there's a little bit of Toth in there, like
absolutely.
having a lot of fun with page design, and
Mhm.
they're very different in that way. Jeff Smith and Matt Wagner. Matt Wagner explores the page, I think, more than Jeff Smith does, but Jeff Smith understands that you don't need to explore the page that much, because the story is so grounded and solid.
Right. And I think the other thing about Wagner is that this might sound like an insult, but it's definitely not. So I'm hit or miss with some of the other versions of Grendel. Like I don't,
Sure.
find them to be as interesting as the Hunter Rose version.
I like what Darko Makan, if that's how you say his name,
Mhm.
and I've met him. And I forget the artist, a really great artist. They did like a sci-fi version, I
I
think,
think
of
that's Grendel
Grendel.
Prime. Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. But you're right, it gets like into hit or miss territory, let's say.
Right. And I think, the other part that probably recommends Jeff over is that I don't know that I could hand somebody a Grendel or maybe Mage. I think Mage might be the one, to hand somebody and go, this is a great comic series, start here and
Right.
go from there. I think Mage would be the one that would
But
be,
but Jeff Smith is akin to Charlie Brown, to Charles Schultz, Charlie Brown. It is auteur oriented. Like
yeah,
you cannot only Jeff Smith should be drawing Bone. In fact, I had to draw Bone for the Baltimore Comic Con
right.
special, and I felt weird drawing. I'm like, this is wrong. Like this is like trying to draw Charlie Brown. Like I can't do it.
Right.
It was difficult actually. Um, but yeah, I think in this case, and I think Matt might even agree, or I don't know, shoot a dart at us, with the Grendel or whatever that
They're both so
thing.
um as creators and as people, they're both so like I like being around them, if that makes
Oh
sense.
yeah,
Like it doesn't
absolutely.
doesn't it doesn't feel uncomfortable, like to be around somebody that you admire, like sometimes it is, but
Sure.
like with those two, you just feel like, they don't seem to be exclusion happy.
At all.
They
At all.
same thing with Terry Moore. Like they seem to be very, welcoming.
Absolutely. They're confident in who they are in their work, and
Yeah.
they don't need to be dicks about it. So, and they're only just encouraging uh to us.
Yeah.
So, want to do one more, two
Yeah,
more
let's do
maybe?
one more.
Okay, one more. Bob Burden
Okay.
versus, and I mentioned him last week, Don Simpson.
That's a good one. I mean, I think we've done Dawn before, but like this is a really good one.
Well,
Uh,
we mentioned Don, and I forget who that was. I'm looking back. Oh, maybe we might have mentioned him with when I did Mike Allred versus Darwin Cook, and then we mentioned Michael
yes.
Cho, and then that might have veered into Don Simpson somehow.
Yeah, yeah, I think
I
you're
don't
right.
remember. But so Bob Burden's famous for Flaming Carrot
Mhm.
and the Mystery Men and a bunch of other stuff, and Don Simpson's famous for Megaton Man and a thousand other parodies of superheroes, right? So they're
Yeah,
both very good at superhero satire, you
right.
know. Um,
You could also throw
uh,
in oh goodness, I can't remember the guy that does Reed Fleming. I can see his face.
oh, Milkman, the world's toughest milkman or
Yeah,
something,
but I
or
can't remember the creator. Like I'm
Fleming was done. I can look him up, but yeah, you could throw him in there as well a little bit,
but I think Don and uh
Bob.
Bob are like Bob Burden because of the depth and the wealth of characters that came out of one character or
Right,
one story. I think
right.
that's a very good comparison between the two. Flaming Carrot for me is Ron Hill. You know what I mean? Like I and I don't mean personality wise. I just mean that Ron Hill. Whenever I think of Flaming Carrot, I think of Ron Hill. Ron Hill, we've mentioned on the show before. He is a retailer, good friend of ours from JHU Comics, longtime manager of Jim Hanley's universe before it became JHU, and longtime employee. I think he was like the second employee of that.
Wow.
And so Ron has read a lot of comics, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
And whenever I think of Ron, I think of Flaming Carrot because he was the evangelist for Flaming Carrot. Like he
Mhm.
just absolutely, not so much Mystery Men, but like definitely like a Bob Burden fan, definitely like the absurdist humor of Flaming Carrot. And again, like he didn't really recommend Mystery Men so much, but like he definitely was a big Burden fan. And I think with Dawn, it's so weird because like I remember how did I discover Megaton Man? That's a question. I always get Megaton Man and Mr. Monster by Michael Gilbert.
Oh, interesting.
Not confused, but I always felt
Sure,
like I discovered them at the same time,
sure,
you
sure.
know, and
And by the way, Don Simpson reeks of Mad Magazine. Like you keep
oh
thinking,
yeah.
did you
Oh
read him
yeah.
in Mad Magazine? No, you'd never read
Yeah.
Megaton Man, you know?
And you come to find out that it's mostly creator owned and self-published, you know,
Yes.
like where, you know, like he
There
might have,
was a kitchen sink era, and there
yeah,
have been, you think it maybe something of an Image
I was
Comics
going to
era,
say
maybe, and then
possibly an image.
Cosmic Lion recently published a couple collections, and he's come back out of comic book retirement, and I've gotten very friendly with Don Simpson, who's great. And
Yeah.
I also know Bob Burden from years ago, being at
Yeah.
a couple of conventions with him and
There,
talking to him.
I've never met Bob Burden, but if he's anything like Don, I love their wit. Not so much their sense of humor, but their wit.
Right.
Like, because
God,
they
they couldn't be more different as
really,
people, I believe. And it's funny because I'm thinking about like how to choose. And I love Don's writing and his sensibilities of parody and just coming up with so many, and he's kind of like, and he's super academic in a lot of
yeah,
ways.
yeah. That's I
But
think it's lost, you know, like when you
but yeah,
talk about
totally gets lost through his, and it's when you talk to him, you realize he's like this smarty pants,
Mhm.
you know. But he kind of looks like a Pittsburgh gangster or a thug,
And he's not even
like,
from Pittsburgh originally. I think he's from
oh,
Detroit
he isn't.
or from
Oh,
Michigan.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Somewhere.
yeah, yeah, right. To try to, but I do like his art better than Bob Burden, but I think I like Bob Burden's stories better than Don's if I had to do that.
Yeah, what I
I
was
had
going to
to
say is I
pick one
think
of
it
them.
comes down to aesthetics and possibly
Right,
personal preference.
right.
Would I read a Bob Burton written Don Simpson drawn comic? My God, yeah.
Oh my God.
It'd be so good.
Yeah,
It'd be fun. It would be interesting, I think, too, to see Bob Burton's characters drawn in Don's style or Don's characters drawn in Bob
sure,
Burton's style. Because I
sure.
don't think, you know, I think the one thing you can say about both creators is that their signature characters can't really be interpreted by other people. As
Yeah, exactly.
almost like Jeff Smith and Bone, like you were saying, like
Right.
I felt weird drawing it. I think you would draw a great Megaton Man, but it misses something. It misses
Absolutely.
absolute
Absolutely.
like the
It would
absolute.
miss like 30 more muscles that needs to
Oh
be
yeah,
there,
that too.
like, I mean, in a way, Don Simpson's art style is like if Will Eisner and Jack Davis gave birth to a gamma irradiated baby, like
Big tall bald dude,
it's,
like
you
that,
know,
like you know,
and
I've
it's very commercial looking, whereas Bob Burton's stuff still looks indie to me,
you're absolutely right. You're
very
absolutely
indie.
right. And I think, you know, the other thing about the two of them, the were about Don is that the only other contemporary artist that I can see being anywhere near that could do a Megaton Man that would be convincing would be Hilary Barta, who did
Yeah,
Scott Flanagan with Alan Moore on America's Best Comics. I don't know that anybody could do a flaming like you couldn't sub somebody else in to do flaming carrot, you know, which
well, you
is
could,
both a
it just
blessing and a
wouldn't have
curse.
that, it just wouldn't have, just like you mentioned Reed Fleming, angriest milkman, whatever. Very specific. He always actually looked like, I always thought he was like if Harvey Pekar was a superhero.
Absolutely. I, you know, the funny thing about that is I was wondering why that guy never drew an American Splendor.
Right? It's
Like,
crazy.
but like
I'm
I
gonna look
think,
him up. I gotta find a guy's name. Sorry,
yeah,
Reed
I think the thing
Fleming.
about both, like I was trying to get to, I think
Oh, David Boswell.
that's right.
David Boswell, Reed Fleming, World's Toughest Milkman. That's the name of the kid. It's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I think that, you know,
And actually, I would even throw in Shannon Wheeler's Too Much Coffee Man into the
oh yeah,
mix.
that's a good one too. Yeah, like the four of them would definitely
Yeah.
be, you know, I wouldn't say contemporaries, but like they're so integral to the creation of that character. And I know that sounds like no shit, but
Yeah.
it's such a like it's so I can't see anybody else drawing red Red Hook or Billy Dogma because it's so much a part of you. Do you know what I mean?
Right, right.
Like,
Red Hook would be easier, and I've seen iterations.
yeah,
Billy Dogma harder because even
absolutely.
he's evolved in ways that like I used to like. He was almost a parody of like Popeye in a weird way.
Well, yeah, and then like it's weird. Like when you look at him now, when you draw him, his jaw is so much more like square and jutting, and it almost looks like it's a separate part of his face.
Yeah, and yet like his jaw was much more defined
Mm.
earlier on, more of a parody of that of playing with the strong jawed hero, as
Yeah.
it with the blonde hair, me making fun of, and then falling in love with that character,
Mhm.
and Jane Legit, whatever. But I hear you about like when a creator has a definitive approach to their creation.
Yeah, yeah. I think, for purposes of this, I apologize to you, Ron Hill, because I know like I should not, go the other way. But I just like Megaton Man is just like the best part of superhero parodies. Like it's just it's so silly and fun and like you said, Mad Magazine in its DNA.
Totally.
And
And it's
like,
funny because as much as I love Don and I love Migdal, I'm going to go with Flaming Carrot.
yeah, I can
You
see
know,
that. I think
so
it speaks to, I think the reason why we choose separately in this case is because it speaks to our upbringing in
hmm
art, like in the making of art, like
hmm
where I've always strived to be commercial, close to, not parody, but close to, what you would expect from a comic book. And I think
hmm
you've always been encouraged to just, take it a different way or to
hmm
explore something, a little bit off the beaten path. And I think that's why you would choose uh, uh, Bob Burden over,
right,
Don.
right,
But like, I think, Don would be my aesthetic.
absolutely. And if I could, just because if we could do a quick one,
Yeah,
and then
good.
we'll end it because of where we go next. So this should be easier and faster. Fletcher Hanks versus Basil Wolverton.
Jesus, no, this is
Now,
definitely a longer conversation.
it should be a longer conversation,
It should
but
be, yeah. Fletcher Hanks, probably most famous for creating Stardust, the Space Wizard,
yep,
and Phantoma, or
Phantoma, yep.
yeah, like the woman with the skull
Oh,
face.
Phantom X. Hold on, let me check. Let me check on that.
So the thing about these two characters, well, mostly Stardust, is Stardust has a really small head and a big ass body. Like Fletcher Hanks did not take a class to draw, I don't think. Um,
Right, right.
and Basil
Yeah,
Wolverton,
Phantoma with an F. You're right. It's
like
Phantoma.
Basil Wolverton, I don't know that he has a definitive character, but his style is something that is just, if Robert Crumb denies that he learned something by looking at Basil Wolverton, I would probably shoot him in the face
So
because
Basil Wolverton, no, you're totally right because like this guy is probably the original text, the original cloth for that kind of underground ugly
yeah.
art, as it were. He drew the world's ugliest woman. He had a series called Space Hawk and Powerhouse Pepper.
Oh, I know Space Hawk. I forgot he did Space Hawk. Space Hawk was, but this was his superhero stuff. Like
Yeah, that was like like if you could do a mainstream version of Basil Wolverton.
right.
And he also did like the Bible and but he also drew a lot of like weird, funky, alternative, underground looking art
Like
and
like he
ugly
would draw.
images. And
If you can imagine it, people at home watching this, a person drawing a face with limbs. It makes no sense whatsoever. But he
yeah,
somehow did. Like it was
I mean,
always,
I'm actually looking at that very thing you just described.
yeah, it's
So
always like these weird angles and like these weird jutting jaws and overbites,
yeah,
underbites, noses with warts, hair coming out of very inexplicable places on a face. Like you know, my choice would be Basil Wolverton because
it's
those
funny because he'd be like your favorite like artist in junior high school, like in the locker
absolutely,
room, like draw that guy, like and like you weaponize your art to draw so and so who didn't want to go on a date with me, like
or like this is what the teacher looks like. Oh, big buck teeth.
totally. I
Like,
always joke that if I ever went to prison, I'd be fine. I wouldn't be handed around, I don't think. because everyone will be using me to draw their arch nemesis, and
or their
everyone will be laughing.
idealized selves.
Or exactly, I like just I'd be constantly busy drawing stuff and being protected.
You
You
know what
know?
I wonder? I wonder how much, if any, influence Basil Wolverton's art had on Bob Fingerman. Not that
Oh, I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did.
not
I'm
that
sure
Bob
it did.
draws in that style per se, but
No,
there's a certain kind of beautiful ugliness and
right,
beauty in some of their work, you know.
right,
But
right.
I would choose Basil Wolverton's so much fun to look at.
No, he's very fun to work. Guess what? I'm picking Fletcher Hanks though, because I love Phantoma, I love Stardust, and when you go look at his art, it's so surreal and so crazy. Just type in his name and look up his art, and there's a beauty to it as well. Like where Basil Wolverton leans into the ugly. Uh, Fletcher Hanks, who will draw, a small Buster Crab head on a superhero. Buster Crab played Flash Gordon, right? The actor.
Yes.
Um, and then draw this amazing looking kind of like superheroic woman, Phantoma, who turns into like basically a blue skeleton or a
Mm.
blue skeleton faced woman,
Mm.
and also drew just like heads shooting like cosmic, or planets blowing up with superheroes flying them. It's insane.
Yeah,
It to me,
that's the thing that turns me off about it is the absurdity of it. And not that I
sure,
don't.
I can understand that.
We
I can
just talked
understand.
about Bob Burden, David Boswell, Shannon Wheeler, and Don Simpson, and like there's an
Right,
absurdity to their work, but
right,
it's almost reined in to make it palpable.
sure.
You know what I mean? Whereas with Fletcher Hanks, I feel, first of all, is Fletcher Hanks his real name? Because I always feel like that's like something
I
made up.
don't know.
Like
It sounds a little
such a
bit.
weird name, but like with Fletcher Hanks, it seems like the artwork is so like not intentionally distorted or intentionally, like there's no intent in the absurdity. It just
Right,
He just doesn't have the talent of a Joe Shuster, let's say,
right,
to
right.
do what he wants to do. And it's just like it's like if I drew a comic, like it would just have like these weird proportions to it because I don't have the training, I don't have the schooling of it.
But your untrained hand or untrained eye, I feel, is more intentional with the Fletcher Hanks. In other words, there's an
You
intent.
really? Hmm.
Oh, I don't think it's
You don't think it's a
uh
shortcoming?
as outsider art as maybe Art Spiegelman, who I believe has done lectures on Fletcher Hanks,
Ah,
might consider it something of an outsider artist.
okay,
But I see it as more intentional, like he chose because there's a consistency to it,
that's true.
if
Yeah,
that makes
right.
sense,
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
So and just so you're picking Basil
Wolverton.
Wolverton, I'm picking Fletcher Hanks, but because I mentioned Shannon Wheeler, who's done Too Much Coffee Man and a bunch of other things, but let's
Mhm.
just keep him Too Much Coffee Man. Who would his verses be?
Ivan Brunetti. No, maybe.
No, no. Although now I got to figure out who's his. All right, you know what? I'm adding him to the list for next. Not next time necessarily, but for when we
Yes,
move forward.
right. They'll be at the bottom of the list.
Sweet. All right. Well, yeah, and I had to put Fletcher Hanks and Basil because
It
the
makes
Bob
sense.
Bird John Simpson
Yeah, that makes
conversation.
sense.
So, all
All right,
righty, man.
everyone. Thank you for joining us. We hope you had a happy Thanksgiving. Again, this is coming out on Cyber Monday. So, boycott Amazon, buy local, boycott Target, boycott Best Buy, boycott the big box stores, buy local. Go to your local comic store and buy something if you're going to shop for something. They have it, guaranteed. Like whatever you want at Walmart, you might not get the exact same thing, but my goodness, your comic store's got so much more to offer. Like go there.
Read more comics.
Absolutely.
Isn't
Thank
that
you,
what
Dean.
Ed Piskor said?
I hope you
Read
enjoy
more
your
comics.
dinner tomorrow night. I hope
Okay, you too, man.
and we will talk to you guys next week. Thank you for stopping by.
Peace.
Yay, yay.
Yay, yay.
Yay, yay.